Alrighty, let us move into some more depressing topics to talk about. Okay, the rape of Nanjing. Okay, the rape of Nanjing. It's going to go on December 13th, 1937, up until January of 1938. In this event, there's going to be roughly 50,000 to 300,000 dead. The actual number is going to be disputed for a number of reasons. I'll explain that in just a little bit. But what this was a mass murder and mass rape of Chinese citizens. So people of China, okay, as we were talking about how the Japanese, with their imperialistic tendency, were going to be invading and kind of trying to go into other countries moving forward. Just like we talked about appeasement, how appeasement was one of these things. This is kind of one of those examples of Japanese appeasement and the Japanese being appeased, allowing Emperor Hirohito to really expand. So they're going to go move into China, and a number of these soldiers are going to commit mass atrocities in China at this time period. It's going to be committed primarily by Japanese soldiers. Not every single Japanese soldier was doing this, so it's important to understand that not everyone who fought for the Japanese was horrible and did this kind of thing, but this is exactly what these soldiers were doing. The reason we don't actually know the exact number of people who were actually either raped or murdered at this time period was the vast majority of the documents detailing this event were going to be destroyed later on by the Japanese government. Even today, I believe the Japanese government doesn't really talk about this much, say much happened. However, soldiers that were present at this time period have later come out to say that yes, this actually happened. Very traumatic event, very horrible event to understand. You can understand why there's a lot of tension in Asia today towards the Japanese. A lot of these kind of residual feelings are still being felt today. Now, let's move on to the United States. Okay, they're not innocent in this front either. United States is going to have internment camps going from February 19th of 1942 up until March 20th of 1946. It's going to be under the name Executive Order 9066. Executive Order is when the President of the United States simply says this is going to happen, and people follow through with doing that. It's going to be the forced relocation of 110,000 to 120,000 Japanese Americans into internment camps located throughout the West. It's important to understand that 62% of these people were American citizens being forcibly rounded up by their government, put into these camps, so to speak. Now, these aren't the same kind of camps that we're going to have in Nazi Germany, okay, where people are being systematically executed and they're working, forced labor. These camps are going to be a little bit better than that, but they're not going to have a lot of space, really. They're going to be together with their families, but they're forcibly locked up, okay? This is very problematic. Anyone who had a business or anything, especially the East or the West Coast, like San Francisco area, most likely is going to lose their business. They're going to lose their home, and they're simply moved away to faraway areas to work in these internment camps. Talk a little bit more about this in class. But it's done to 62% of people who had this happen to them were American citizens. So the United States government was locking up its citizens without committing a crime, simply because they feared they might be spies. Okay, a lot of people in the United States at this time period who were of Japanese ancestry were either first or second generation citizens from Japan, so they felt they might be kind of empathetic to what the Japanese are doing and want to go back and follow along with the Japanese. That's not going to really necessarily be happening, but because of that, President Roosevelt is going to put them into internment camps. Now, we talk about the problems associated with this, number of different issues going on. First and foremost, you cannot simply lock people up because of their nationality. You can have some of that nationalism going on at this time period. Talk about how intense that anti-Japanese sentiment truly was after Pearl Harbor. It's wrong on so many levels. We can talk about that right there. Some pictures of some Japanese children doing the Pledge of Allegiance. This was at a school in San Francisco. That little girl in the white dress actually met her husband and talked to him. They were both interred and later got married. So there's at least some happy story in this one. Now, let's talk about the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb right here, you can see the physics and how everything works right through here. Basically, you're splitting atoms, creates a huge amount of energy, which is going to cause a massive explosion. It's going to be called the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project is a code name used for the project, which is going to be developing this atomic bomb. They don't just want to go say, hey, I want to go develop the atomic bomb. You need the talking code, because if other people figure this out, bad things could possibly happen. The important thing with this is secrecy is key. It's going to be developed primarily by the United States, Canada, and the UK. Now, it's going to be important to understand the USSR is not a part of this development, okay? Stalin is purposely kept in the dark. Stalin has no clue what's going on. Now, I want you to think, why might that be? Okay, why would the United States and the Allies want to keep the Soviets out of this atomic bomb? Well, the reasoning for this is they were honestly afraid of the Soviets, didn't really trust the Soviets, and they knew that they're not going to be friends with the Soviets for long. They didn't want them to have this technology. President Truman is going to actually be kept in the dark about this program. So at first he was a vice president, and then we remember we already talked about this, how President Roosevelt died and Truman came in. Truman, the vice president of the United States, the second most powerful man in the United States, had no clue about this going on, which goes to show exactly how secret it was. Once he became president, he found out and was totally in shock about what was happening. And it's going to be used on the two major cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which are going to be the two major targets. The option here was either drop this bomb or risk an invasion into Japan. Now, the argument was if you invade Japan, there's going to be a large loss of life by both Japanese and Americans, or you can simply drop the bomb. Dropping the bomb is going to end the war quicker without risking any more soldiers' lives. That's going to be one justification. Okay, now, the other side of this one is you're going to kill a lot of civilians by dropping this atomic bomb, which is going to be happening. I'll explain that in just a second. Number two, there were actually plans for the Soviets to invade the island of Japan from the north, the Americans on the south. If you let the Soviets come in and the Americans, you're going to have to split the island half Soviet, half American. If you can simply do it yourself, you don't have to give this island to the Soviets at all, which is going to also influence Truman's decision to drop the atomic bomb. Now, Hiroshima, okay? Here's a picture of Hiroshima after the bomb. The city was completely annihilated, as you can see here. It happens on August 6th, 1945. The bomb's name was Little Boy. It's going to be dropped early in the morning. It's going to actually blow in the wind and explode directly over top of a hospital, killing everyone for the most part who was inside. The effects of radiation are going to be incredibly problematic at this time period, okay? When you have these atomic explosions, it's not just the initial blast wave that's going to be killing you, but the radiation that's released afterwards is going to be killing you off for months or possibly even years after. 20,000 soldiers are going to be killed in this single blast, 70,000 to 126,000 civilians. We don't even know the exact number. One, we don't know how many people were there. Body count was impossible as well, simply due to the sheer size of this explosion. The first ever atomic bomb attack used in world history, and it's going to be important to understand that. If you can look right here, you can see some of the radiation burns on this man's neck. The story kind of goes, they all of a sudden saw a huge flash of light, and then were just basically on fire. Their entire body is burning, their clothes ripped off of them due to the shock wave and the heat. Very traumatic experience. Then, a few days later, they did the same thing on the city of Nagasaki. August 9th, 1945. This bomb's named Fat Man. In this one, there's going to be 39 to 80,000 people killed. So no matter days, a large number of Japanese people were killed. This time period, Truman is telling the Japanese, surrender, you're going to keep having this happen day in and day out. The Japanese were afraid, and the Japanese surrendered. In reality, this was the last bomb the United States had. They could not drop any more on Japan. Japan didn't know that, and Japan is then going to surrender August 15th of 1945. Now, quickly, we're going to talk about the lasting impacts, and this is going to end up this whole unit right here. Number one, power shifts are going to be happening at this time period. After World War II, the United States and the USSR are going to become the world powers, replacing England and Germany, who were previously the world powers. Tensions in the world are going to be tense, okay? People are anxious and on edge, and there's going to become an arms race. The Soviets are not happy that the Americans have this massive bomb and kept them in the dark. They kind of want their own thing. There's going to be an arms race and a Cold War between socialism in the East and capitalism in the West. Communism is going to be spread. All these countries in the Soviet Union is going to kind of liberate. They're going to set up as satellite nations in Eastern Europe, being little Soviet states. Hope is going to survive, though, and we're going to have things like the United Nations and the Marshall Plan implemented. Okay, I'll talk about those just a little bit later on. Some of my sources right through there. Let's go back. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Otherwise, good luck, and I will see you later.